Hi, everybody. Just to introduce myself real quick, my name is Jared Krzyzewski. That's a long last name, I know. Jared Krzyzewski. So I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I am a 3D concept artist. I've been working in the film industry for the past 3-4 years. I've been lucky enough to work on some very exciting projects that are coming out this year. I'll just kind of take you through some of my work, and we'll talk about a little bit about the process. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into some creature sculpting techniques. I just was lucky enough to go on stage beforehand, so I'm nice and warmed up. So it's a good place to be. So I'll just talk a little bit about why I prefer to use ZBrush and 3D in a concept production environment. One of the reasons why we love using ZBrush at the Aaron Sims Company is because clients get a very realistic looking concept, photoreal concept. And that helps directors and producers really clarify what they want in their mind. Sometimes they have an idea, but they really need to see something highly realized. And just over the years, expectations for realism have gone up as CG characters become more real. That expectation goes all the way down the line, and now concept artists have to do very realistic looking work in order to sell the product. What's fantastic about ZBrush is this model can then be passed down the pipeline and then animated, rigged, all these things. So the lines are starting to blur between ideation and production. And I've kind of been fortunate enough to witness this firsthand. So here are some various designs, all using 3D, all using ZBrush. And then I will render this out in an external program, sometimes Maya, sometimes Keyshot, or sometimes I'll just do a ZBrush render. And then taking it into Photoshop for a composite, and then we pass this right off. So here are some additional pieces. I did fan art for a while, so here's Crumb from Real Monsters and Kif from Futurama. So here's some like mechanoid type of things, and then just more weird creatures here. And I'll go ahead and show you some additional stuff. Let's see. This is a troll design I did for the DirecTV commercial. So the troll has to be kind of a handsome father figure, I guess, for a troll. And he carries his iPad out to go get milk while he's getting milk for his baby. So here are the expressions, facial expressions that I did as a test. And you can see just how easy it is to make this character emote and express in various different ways. And this concept model that I did later went on to Method Studios, where they prepared it for their production pipeline. But the design to the final image is almost one-to-one. So you can see here's the design sculpt. Another way would be to call it would be digital maquettes. Would be another good way. But yeah, once this design is approved, it just passes right down the pipeline for the modelers. It's just fantastic. Here's another piece done in ZBrush and Keyshot. Another fan art piece of Kang and Kodos from The Simpsons. Another weird, bizarre alien creature. This was a student demo. I'm also an instructor at Noman. So this was a demonstration for students. And here is the actual sculpt of this guy. And, this is perfectly ready for 3D printing. So this is another fantastic thing about ZBrush, is that not only do your concepts get ready to go all the way down the pipeline, but you can also print these out for clients now, too. So the rise of 3D printing is just super exciting for a digital artist who we don't often get to see our things, physical in front of us. There's a kind of detachment of the physical and the conceptual. So now with 3D printing being so widely used, those gaps are going to narrow. So pretty soon we'll have a 3D printer on every person's desk and I'll be able to sculpt something out, send it as a physical print to a client, and then they can approve it or not approve it. And then it's just getting much easier to mass produce these things, so you can give them all out to your clients as gifts. Celebrate your product and celebrate your design in an interesting way. It's just super exciting. And now I guess they're printing in color, which is just another huge leap. So we're just going to watch these gaps between designer and final production models. Like, these gaps are just going to narrow as we continue on. And so recently I did the work, did some designs for I, Frankenstein, did these a few years ago. Regardless of what you think of the movie, I always have fun designing for projects. So this is all using ZBrush, and this is actually a ZBrush render. And this ZBrush actually came out with the surface noise plugin right as this program, as this show was coming on. So you can see using the ZBrush noisemaker is how I was able to achieve some of these deep cracks. And it's just awesome because to sculpt something like this, by hand would have taken forever. So ZBrush just has the tools that someone like me needs, and you can just ideate and come up with stuff very, very quickly. So here you can see a turnaround of the head. They wanted these kind of engravings carved in there as well, and these cracks are using that surface noise plugin. Here's another design that I did with another artist, Brian Wynia, another fantastic conceptual designer. So he did the base sculpt, and then I rendered and then added some additional cracks in there as well. And this is pretty close to how the final design for the gargoyles turned out in I, Frankenstein. So a lot of fun, and yeah, they just fell in love with it. So here's an earlier pass of the gargoyles where they were more dog-like kind of things. So early, just like cracking, and then this is some Photoshop manipulation in here as well. But the clients love this stuff, and of course the clients are going to change their mind here and there. And but with ZBrush now, it's so fast to ideate and come up with this stuff. So very, very fast and very professional, very photoreal concept design. So it's no longer a guy sitting with pen and paper on his desk. You're physically modeling something. And this is perfectly ready to go to print. This is in a totally good place. And so now not only do you have a conceptual design that can be done within a day, 2 days, but then you can also print these out and then pass this on to your client until they're satisfied. So it's a very, very cool time. And then pretty soon we'll see toys being built in this manner. Very, very, very cool. Okay, so I'll get ahead and get on with some of the sculpting features. So basically, for today's demonstration, I'm going to basically use this essential model that we were using for the live sculpt demo. So nothing, particularly new or different here. And I'm just going to grab a basic material to start off with. And because I'm not limited by print size, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this guy right here. So one thing I like to start off with is just a basic sphere or a basic primitive of some kind. And really, the gap between digital clay and real clay is shrinking. It feels more like real clay now when ZBrush with the advent of Dynamesh. There's no limits in topology anymore. The only limit is really your own imagination, which is just incredible. Before, to model out or sculpt something, it could take a day, it could take a week. It was a very time-consuming process because you're learning to put points in space at any one time. Now it's just very natural, and it's amazing how technology has actually taken us back to those traditional methods of so it's now kind of a combination of the old and the new kind of married together, and that's why I love ZBrush, and it's really incredibly fantastic. So what I'm going to do, just to start off, is I've got a little Dynasphere here, and I'm just going to start carving in just some rough lines. Many artists kind of go in with a preconceived notion of what they want beforehand, but not me. I kind of I thrive in the chaos. You know, so I like to get my hands dirty, so to speak, and start just throwing in some general lines here. And this is going to be the basis for our creature. Okay, so just rough and dirty sculpts, right? Well, now with the move tool, which is just like if you were using your hands, right? Your physical hands, and you're pushing and pulling clay apart, right? We're going to use that with the move tool. So I like to think of the move tool as my fingers as I'm massaging the form here. So I'm just going to really push and pull some shapes around until I start to, find something that's a really appealing shape for myself. I'm going to go ahead and stick with a creature theme, just because I've already warmed up on creatures for the past week, and then in the live sculpt competition. So I just want to stick with that theme and start going crazy. So I'm just roughing out ahead here, and this is the part where you start letting those like little happy accidents happen. You can see, since I've kind of done some rough marking up, I kind of have an indication of what I can do. And all this detail will change over time. I'm not married to any one thing, because in this digital age, you can change your mind at the drop of a hat. You know, if I want to really push and pull these forms around, I can do that and not have to concern myself with proper topology or anything like that. You can change your sculpt on the fly and really push and pull design now. I've had clients, and if you don't like this, you can always run backwards in time and go right back to the beginning. But I'm going to go ahead and scrub forward a little bit. And I've actually had clients sit behind me while I sculpt, while I live demo and sculpt in front of them. And they love it, because a client actually can get what they want very, very fast. And so I've had them, sit behind me and say, like, oh, could you, push this or, change this? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, not a problem. Just because the nature of ZBrush is so forgiving now to sculpt anything live or to sculpt something in front of a client. It's just fantastic, because they can get exactly what they want. And in this case, because I'm just winging it off the top of my head, is I know that I'm going to essentially want to sculpt out a genuine skull shape, right? And then push and pull those forms until I find that skull is generally appealing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to mask out this section, invert that, and just grab this piece of clay. Now, masking is like if you were, to block off a section of your sculpt and then just push and pull some forms. So what I'm going to do is just grab this just blank area here. We're just going to pull this down. And this is going to become the basis of our torso here. And all these polygons, you can see here, it's very low resolution. These polygons are very stretched. And actually, I'm okay with this, because this is where we get into those like little happy accidents that are going to start happening. And I actually let this stuff kind of dictate the sculpt a little bit. So you can see it looks almost like shredded here. But when I clear out the mask and then I re-dynamesh, look at all these little like happy striation accidents that start to happen in there. Dynameshing as you go and as you're working along, just fantastic. And I just love being able to just push and pull and let the creativity happen. A lot of times you can really limit yourself by going in with a preconceived notion of what you want. So we got our base blocked out here, and all these like little kind of pokey things, I'm just going to let those fly, let those be a part of the sculpt here, and just let it almost dictate the design of the creature here. Just roughly sculpting in some just general striations. And if you were to look at my hand, I'm just kind of like loosely noodling over it. And letting things kind of appear. one of my favorite words of all time is called pareidolia. And that's a phenomenon where you see shapes and faces in like bushes and trees and hills. Have you ever like driven down a mountainside and you're like, hey, that looks like a creature stuck in that mountain? That's called pareidolia. And that's it's believed that we evolved pareidolia to help separate environments from people. But today I'm going to use that skill to like find a face in here and find some shapes kind of out of the chaos, out of the blackness of space. I'm just going to try and find something generally appealing here. And then I'm going to fill out the back a little bit. Just fill out a general torso shape. And you know, we want this to be a really cool alien from beyond the stars. So give them you know, some shoulders and some identifiable features. Let's give them a neck. Let's work out the head. And I'm just using my move tool. You'll find that the more you use ZBrush, the fewer tools you end up using, because the few tools that you have are so brilliantly useful that you just you can just, you know, bang out this stuff really, really fast. I was doing trial runs for the live sculpting, and I was finishing sculpts in an hour. And I was like, this is fantastic, because now I've got an extra half hour to start detailing out stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to work out a little bit of an eye cavity here. And I really want to take this guy into almost a realm of abstraction. You know, we've all seen the classic alien kind of face, right? When you think of a gray alien, what do you think of? You think of the standard, you know, large head, small beady eyes, gray skin kind of thing. Well, nature probably wouldn't develop anything like that. If we were really out there on a planet that we've never seen before, we don't know what the structure of these aliens would even look like. So chances are the human imagination just cannot conceive of you know, what could possibly be out there. But we're going to try a little bit, and we're going to use ZBrush for that. So just squashing in the face, finding you know, those the structure within a sculpt, and that's what good artists do, is they find a lot of the structure in their sculpt. Okay, so we're getting pretty cool here. What I can do is I can even mask this out and then push and pull these shapes a little bit more. And when you render this, it starts to create that dimension, that feeling of you know, something sitting in three-dimensional space. So there we go. Nice clavicles here. Just work on the dimensions of the neck. Let's pull out some cool forms there. And then in my head, as I'm talking, as I'm trying to figure this out, I'm trying to figure out who this character is. Is he an invader? Is he a scientist on an expedition of you know, discovery? Is he trying to figure out you know, who we humans are? Why are they coming down to Earth? Are they going to sap us of our resources? Are they here to study us and figure out who we are? All that kind of fun stuff. So now let's grab this sphere here. I'm going to clone this out so I can work with this separately here. And I'm going to grab a piece from their Insert Mesh collection. And what's fantastic about the Insert Mesh collection, so say if I open up the dragon bones, all these pieces are just digital clay for me to you know, go ahead and, you know, do with as I please. And you can just draw these out all day, and, you know, you have a nice abstract model. Not exactly what I'm going for here, but I am going to use this collarbone piece. Okay. And I'm going to just separate that out. Want to make sure it's drawn directly in the center here. Great. So I'm going to isolate this guy. I'm going to delete anything that's not visible. So I just have this little collarbone kind of piece, whatever it is. And I'm just going to subdivide it once, twice, and then I'm going to grab my handy-dandy rake tool. And just like a sculptor would be sculpting on a traditional maquette, I'm going to use this rake tool to kind of refine the form and add these like little bitty details in here. Ultimately, this is going to kind of shrink down a bit, and you'll see where I'm going in a moment with it. Hopefully, it'll be cute. But just adding a little bit of detail here, just rough and dirty. You can see that it was projecting through to the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on back face mask. And if I turn on back face mask here, you'll see that as I sculpt through, even aggressively sculpt through, it's not going through to the other side. So this will be especially handy with 3D sculpts or things that need to get printed if you only need to work on one side of the mesh. Okay, so just general roughness. I'm not looking for perfection here. And because I did subdivide it a few times, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to delete these subdivisions. And so now I have this just little piece built for me right here. I'm going to turn this into something more. So also what's fantastic is not only can you get these like insert mesh pieces like these guys, but you can also create your own. So really, once you start doing this, sky's the limit on whatever you want to create. So I'm just going to grab this piece, and I'm going to grab it from a top view here, because I want it to project down into the mesh. So I'm just going to grab this. I'm going to hit Create Insert Mesh, and I'm going to create a new insert mesh piece. So now when you see this, now I can just draw these out all day long. And now that I have this piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new sphere, right? Just a new polygonal sphere. I'm going to make it a polymesh just in case. And now what I'm going to do is I have a custom menu set up for this. But what you can do is you can create symmetry, right? And we already know about left to right symmetry, but also we want to explore radial symmetry as well. So if I want to turn on my radial symmetry, I'm going to turn on Z. I'm going to turn off X because I only want it in the Z position in space. And I'm going to turn on radial count. So now I have 4 little radial dots that travel around in a perfect circle. And this is where we really get to start experimenting and doing some like crazy cool stuff. So I'm going to draw out 4 of these guys here. And then I'm going to draw out 4 more. And maybe another one coming out right here. So now that I've got this, let's just say this is like some kind of complex port or something organic for things to pop out of with creatures. I'm just going to take this. I'm going to delete this sphere here. And let's delete hidden. So now that I have this piece, I can make this all one unified piece. So I'm going to do that with Dynamesh. And when you see me running around in the menus, it's because I've created a lot of custom menus to help speed up my workflow, all together. Because when you're doing this, all day in and out, you don't want to be digging through menus and doing all this stuff. So I create a custom menu with all the main features that I need. At some point, there's always going to be another feature that you need. So I'll just add it to the menu as I need. So now I've got Dynamesh. I'm going to crank up the resolution on this thing to about 512. And let's go ahead and Dynamesh this. So now what Dynamesh is doing is it's taking all these pieces and making them one unified piece. So just from that one piece that you saw, now I've got 2 new pieces. There we go. So now we can see that this is all fused together, right? But this is a bit heavy. You can see this is about 800,000 polygons here. And if I were to start drawing this on top of a character, the poly count would just jump exponentially every single time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a ZBrush function on this guy. And man, when ZBrush developed the ZBrush, man, did they knock it out of the park with this thing. Because topology and retopology was the bane of every 3D artist's existence. And when they developed ZBrush, man, there was a collective sigh of relief across the industry, as we no longer had to deal with like putting little points every single place. Can you imagine how long it would take to retopologize something like this? To do this one piece alone would have taken me a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, who knows? But now I just hit a button and I can talk to all of you while this is going on. And ZBrush is just going to figure out the overlying topology of this thing just based on the curvature of the surface. And it's just genius, mind-blowing. Like we were all blown away when we saw this for the first time. Because now you could retopologize a good model, have that ready to go to production. So now sculpting from the mind, retopologizing it, sending it off to production. Now look at this. Look at how clean this is. This is incredibly clean, and I can guarantee that if I had tried to do this in another program, it would have taken just forever. So we went from 800,000 polygons to 20,000 polygons at the push of a button, and while you hear me go blah, 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 blah. So now what's cool is I'm going to take this piece and turn this into an insert mesh. So I'm going to create an insert mesh brush, and now what I can do is I can append that to my original brush, and now you can see that when I hit the M key on my keyboard, that I can now switch between this guy and this guy. So let's add like some weird crowny type stuff to this guy. Switch out to my other tool, and we can just really start doing some really bizarre aliens that we've never seen before, just using this kind of weird, fun stuff. And again, even though these are correctly topologized, I'm not worried about this because I'm just going to turn it into a Dynamesh. So now switching between the kinds of meshes that you have, from Dynamesh to a proper topology mesh, then back and forth. So the type of mesh you have no longer matters because those rules are meant to be broken now. So I'm just adding like this crown of like little weird, like poppy kind of bizarre things coming off this guy's head. And letting symmetry kind of like do its own trick. But yeah, you can see like when we start to combine these methods together, it just really turns into something special. So now maybe it's like some like porous, weird creature with, some kind of afro or something. I don't know. But even after we've done this, we can grab our move tool, grab these all together, and start pushing and pulling these shapes now. Remember, there's no limits anymore. There's no limits. There's no limit to what the imagination or what digital media can bring now. So you can just really push, push the boundaries now. Like we're at a technological age where we're watching all these kind of boundaries break down bit by bit. And that's because of hardworking engineers and designers and programmers, all coming up with the tools. So a dumb artist like me can just go crazy creating things, and I just love it because the rules they don't exist anymore. There's no more rules for it. So if I want to create the weird Afro puff alien, I can do that. So let's continue to do some of this stuff here, just refine the forms. And I'm just going to go ahead and re-Dynamesh this guy. Let's push and pull those head shapes a little bit. And let's re-Dynamesh. And look at that. Now all these little pieces are now a part of the mesh. And to sculpt something like this on your own by hand would have taken forever. There we go. And you can see like all these pieces now have their own polygroups. So if I want to work on a section at a time, I can break it down, work on one part or another. I'm just going to go ahead and group this all together as one. And you can see like my poly count, even though I have all this stuff going on, is only at 150,000, so that's nothing. And you know, the kinds of detail that 3D printers can get now is just mind-blowing. I really was not prepared, even coming here today, to see like how good the detail is.